Hello plant lovers, it is Matthew in Melbourne. Welcome to my channel, and today is Christmas Eve. Now if you celebrate Christmas, here's to a fantastic Christmas season, and if you don't, here's to a great holiday season. Come what may, I'm quite sure we're all looking forward to just chilling out for a bit at the end of 2021. And what better way to do that than to go and buy yourself something pretty? And I decided to do just that because one of my favorite specialist nurseries was on my radar, and I thought, I'm just going to pop in and have a look, and they had the most amazing array of Phalaenopsis orchids. These are not they. Needless to say, these are my supermarket rescues, which are white and magenta. And I'm sure, much as you love my Phalaenopsis and your own supermarket hardware rescues, sometimes we just need to break out and find something a little more unusual. So I headed off to the wonderful Collector's Corner, and I'll put the links down below, here in Melbourne, to go and have a look at their wonderful collection. Unfortunately, Juan, who is the orchid specialist there, didn't have the time to appear on camera because they are really busy leading up to Christmas, but I did ask him some handy home hints. So if that is of interest, do hit subscribe. I post every week here in Melbourne. I'm growing cold, cool, intermediate orchids without a greenhouse or humidifiers or grow lights or anything, just really indoors or outdoors or not at all. If that's of any interest, do hit subscribe and let us go off to Collector's Corner. I may not be able to resist coming back with something. Okay, off we go. So here I am at the wonderful Collector's Corner. Let's go inside. So here we are in the wonderful Phalaenopsis room of Collector's Corner here in Melbourne, which is one of the rare nurseries in Melbourne where you can come and actually find not just Phalaenopsis, but all manner of rare orchids. It's obviously very seasonal, so it depends what growers have at the time, but it's a great place to come if you're in Melbourne or you're visiting Melbourne. Now, unfortunately, they don't have amazing e-com, but they do have an eBay site, and I'll put those links below. Obviously, the fans are going here at the Collector's Corner greenhouse, so do forgive the background hum, but it's making all these orchids very happy. But you don't need to have these very wonderful orchid conditions of the heat, the humidity, the fans, etc. to grow Phalaenopsis in your own home. No, they are tough. As long as you give them some basic care, they're going to thrive and flower. Let's have a look at the Phalaenopsis. They are the most healthy and juiciest Phalaenopsis I have ever seen. Now, we've all done the supermarket and the hardware rescue of Phalaenopsis, which all tend to be pretty much of a muchness when it comes to color and variance. But sometimes, plant lovers, you just got to dive in and come to a specialty store where you can find the most amazing array. And I feel I am not going to leave without something. Now, I asked Juan, who is the orchid guru here at Collector's Corner, for his 2 tips about growing Phalaenopsis. And his tips are, firstly, do your research. Have a read about what the orchid needs in your particular environment, which is very good advice, which we hopefully all follow to a T. And the second thing is understand the environmental needs that it requires, which is really about light and water and humidity. I guess one of the things too, perhaps coming into Collector's Corner here, this is a heated greenhouse. It's very humid, there are fans going. It seems like a pretty specialist type of environment, and it could be a little off-putting perhaps if you were a first-time Phalaenopsis grower. But I think the thing to remember is that these plants have been hybridized over so many years to make them the ideal houseplant in just about any condition. So I guess don't be put off when you see such an amazing greenhouse, which I'm sure we'd all die for. But I guess the moral of the story is don't be put off. These are hybridized to grow in our own environment, so give them a good Aussie go. The other thing that I was kind of curious about at the Collector's Corner Phalaenopsis range is that a lot of the prices are slightly different. And I was asking Juan, the orchid guru here, and his point was, in their shop, it's really just about the age of the plant that price reflects, not the number of spikes or the particular cross it is. It's quite simply the age and maturity of the plant. Phalaenopsis type orchids natural range is all the way from India all the way across. In fact, there's one species in New Guinea just above Australia. But apparently the most species types of Phalaenopsis are found in the Philippines and Indonesia. So if Phalaenopsis orchid spotting is your bag, you need to head to the Philippines and Indonesia. But these beauties have all been hybridized for our delectation. Look at that with the deeper pink and the lighter pink background. I am in Phalaenopsis heaven. And as Phalaenopsis are the gateway orchids, and we often start our orchid collection by either being given one or rescuing one from a supermarket, it seems like a great place to begin and end the year. And it is the Christmas season, and these do seem to be the most perfect gifts, and I just don't think I'd ever seen such a beautiful array of Phalaenopsis anywhere in Melbourne other than white ones at a hardware store. So I'm really grateful. Thank you very much to Collector's Corner for letting me come and having a quick shoot this morning at their beautiful Phalaenopsis collection. And I just have to show you up here the most amazing Dendrobium in a basket. Now, I think I know the name, but I'll put it down below. I can't help but show you the Vandas. I've just been distracted by them. Look at those Vandas. If only I had a humidified room to grow Vandas in. Wasn't that sensational? And yes, I do have some things to show you. Oh, plant lovers, who needs more Phalaenopsis? I do apparently. Look at this one though. Isn't it just the most beautiful with that really deep pink in the middle there? And there is a little bit of a flush of pink, as you can see on the back of the flower. So beautiful. And again, apologies for the sound. The fans were on in the greenhouse at Collector's Corner, so you might not have been able to hear my dulcet tones. But one of the things I was saying, look at this, almost red and pink. Oh, isn't that the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? So one of the things I was curious about was the price range. Now, these are all hybrid Phalaenopsis. Collector's Corner does have some species, and the price of these hybrid Phalaenopsis is based totally on the age of the plant. So that was something I was curious about because they were slightly different from one plant to another. The other thing I learned is that white bloomed Phalaenopsis, the flowers last longer on the plant. I had no idea. So pink Phalaenopsis flowers, according to Juan, the expert, who I believe with all things, last almost only about half as long. So isn't that curious? And I wonder what the botanical, biological reason for that is. I wonder why the colour perhaps makes the flowers less vigorous or needing more energy to survive. I don't know, curious. Perhaps one of you knows. And I guess the other thing too is I love going into greenhouses like that. Since I was a child and I went to Kew Gardens when I was quite little, I don't know, just the humidity and all the wonderful plants that you see in greenhouses like that, I just love. But particularly for me, a little tricky to create for yourself. In fact, I have no greenhouses and I don't have humidifiers and I don't have fans. That's kind of the whole point of my channel, is that I'm really, how should we say, a roughshod orchid grower just using my natural environment. But it is so wonderful to go into those specialist environments where you can see slightly rarer and more wonderful orchids growing. As you can see from some of this footage that I shot, there was also a wonderful Dendrobium, which I think is called lawesii, which had the most beautiful orange flowers, but it was hanging right above the light, and no matter how I tried to photograph it, it just wouldn't show up for you. But funnily enough, it's an orchid I've kind of been stalking, and to see it in bloom there was just wonderful. But there were other amazing things, lots of Vandas and some more tropical Dendrobiums that were growing on the back wall. Alas, not for sale, but so wonderful to see, because here in Melbourne, not that easy to see beautiful and rarer orchid plants in bloom. So there we are, plant lovers. I'll put the link to Collector's Corner below. Unfortunately, they don't do e-com, but they do have an eBay site, but that is slightly more focused on succulents. So plant lovers, if you're in Australia and if you're coming to Victoria or live in Melbourne, you should go and visit them. And then the other thing I just need to show you, can it just creep into camera here? Remember my great my great experiment about cutting or not cutting Phalaenopsis bloom spikes? Well, this was the one that had regrown itself, and then, dare I say it, someone, not me, snapped off the flowering end of the spike, which was devastating. But as you can see, almost immediately it started to reshoot just before the break point, and I now have this wonderful spike coming along. So one of the many things I've learned this year is with Phalaenopsis, just let them tell you what to do. Plant lovers, there is one more thing that I bought from Collector's Corner. Look at that. Now, what does it look like to you? I'm going to take the tag off so you can't see. Could be one of many things, could it not? But it is in fact that, which is Angraecum infundibulare. Now I want to put an accent on the E because I'm deeply Italian in my soul, but perhaps it's a silent E, which would make it infundibular. But I think infundibulare has more of a ring to it. More Christmas cheer. Anyway, this is the most extraordinary kind of rambling orchid that grows sort of in a band across Central Africa. So from Nigeria all the way across to Ethiopia in that equatorial band, and it grows in moist rainforests, but it is quite a high altitude orchid, so it is a cool to warm grower, which means, plant lovers, it should be able to grow very happily in Melbourne indoors and possibly outdoors if I keep it dry in winter. But what's more fascinating about this is, firstly, the flowers are beautiful. They're sort of white but look very much like a brassivola flower. But its growing habit, so it literally is a clamberer. It looks almost a bit like a vanilla orchid in its climbing habit. So it scrambles through trees. It can be very, very long. So to grow it, you have to grow it up a moss pole and tie it to it like you would many other tropical indoor plants. So I am very pleased with that. Firstly, because it will grow in my climate. Secondly, I've never heard of it before. And thirdly, it's quite a big plant. So who knows? I will probably have to wait a year or so until it decides to bloom, if it should ever, but I will keep you updated. There we are, plant lovers. As I said, if you celebrate Christmas, happy Christmas to you. Thank you very much for watching my channel this year. It has been a joy and a pleasure, and I really mean that from my perspective, hopefully from yours as well. If you don't celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful holiday season, and I'm feeling a well-deserved break from the madness of 2021. So from me and my new Phalaenopsis friends, happy holidays, happy end of year, happy orchid buying, growing, loving, nurturing, and I will see you next week with another continuing adventure of my orchid journey.